Welcome to the Rethink Sales Show. My name is Derek Kelly. I am joined by Jim Shorkey.
Yes, you are.
And Jim, I love when we have sales conversations about sales, helping people communicate better. That video that we did about how to get more sales and how to communicate like a sales pro, it was one of our best YouTube videos that we've done. But I actually have a healthy challenge for you that I love about you, and it's why you and I have spent so much time together over the past few years. Not that you're an anti-salesman, but I think you're less of a salesman than you think you are. Now, let me explain why. I remember telling you, I said, Jim, I want to get a new vehicle, but we don't really have the finances to do that right now. And you said, keep your current vehicle, pay it off, and keep it as long as possible. A salesperson would have said, oh, you need a new vehicle? Go buy a new vehicle right now. When you and I have talked about different financial situations, you're always thinking about how do I maximize the profit? How do I maximize the impact? And you do a really good job of putting the customer first. So maybe it's not that you're anti-salesman, but you really focus on the customer. I remember telling you a story where my wife and I went into a dealership and we were thinking about trading in our car. We had a Hyundai Elantra. And the guy took the service guy out and they checked it out and they took the keys in the back office. And I said, we're not really interested in the car. We're going to go. But they said, oh, why don't we buy you dinner? And I said, no, we're done. We're going to go elsewhere. Right. And they said, oh, you guys want some drinks from somewhere. You want some sodas or something. Oh, we're good. But they wouldn't give us our keys back. So finally we got them back. But the point of the story is for a guy who's been in car sales, you're really customer focused and you're really humble. And that's what I love. We teach so much to you guys about sales, but I think we approach it from a very relational aspect. Yeah. When people think sales, they think, and we've said this many times, I don't want to be sold to, right? But you and I think about it differently. We think about people and helping people. So respond to that. You beg to differ, and I knew you would. But I think even if you are just as salesy as we know, you're not sleazy about it, right? When we did a video that you weren't comfortable with, you said, I think this is too salesy. Let's take it down. We've done stuff like that before, right?
Yeah.
And so speak to that.
First of all, I disagree with just about everything you've said so far. Okay. So let's define exactly what a salesperson is. What does it mean to be a salesperson?
Yeah.
And so, in my opinion, a salesperson is nothing more than a transfer of enthusiasm.
Yes.
So that transfer of enthusiasm would be from me to you. So if I'm going to sell you, I have to be very enthusiastic about what it is that I'm selling and then structure things so that I convey that enthusiasm to you as the client. So in order to do that, I have to really take time to figure out what it is that is important to you relative to this idea of buying something, anything, right? What is important to you? And so myself and my team, we hand-tailored a presentation to bring that out. So the questions, starting with one very specific question, was in this process that we call buying a car. We're talking about owning it, driving it today, and then down the road. This process that we call your relationship with a car, what is most important to you? And the person would hopefully give me an answer. And I would write that down. So I got pen and I'm writing that down. The next question I would ask them, the person or people, is what is next most important to you? Okay? I'd write that down and I keep going. I say, what is next most important? Until they said, that pretty much covers it. That's enough. And let's assume I have 10 items on that list that are really important to the client. Remember, selling is a transfer of enthusiasm, from me to you. Okay? So I've got my list, and back to the top, I'm going to say to Derek here, I'm going to say, Derek, you mentioned that safety was important to you.
Yep.
And I'm going to let you respond. Beyond the obvious, why is safety so important to you?
Because I have 3 little kids and car accidents are pretty prevalent, Jim. They're not like, they don't happen every day to you individually, but they're a pretty prevalent thing. Why do you think when you leave, often people say drive safely?
Yeah.
Because they happen.
So tell me about your 3 children, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how old are they? Their names?
So Ariel is 18 months old. Josiah is 7 and Mirabelle's in the middle at 5. Right?
Oh, wow. Great.
And
Good
so
for you.
wanting them to be safe on the road, right?
Yeah.
That's super important. We bought car seats that were industry standard, the best there was, because we don't know. You and I heard earlier about Rodney being in that accident,
Yes.
right?
So safety is important to you. Okay, you also mentioned money. You mentioned finances. Beyond the obvious, why
Right.
are the finances so important to you?
Of course, I want to be able to pay my mortgage and save and invest and do all those things. And so I want a car payment that fits inside of our budget, because if I don't, then I'm going to take away from some of my other goals that I'm moving toward financially. And so knowing the price that kind of fits into our budget's really important, because if we don't know that, then we may walk out with something that is more than what we need, and then it ends up hurting us in the long term.
One more night, you mentioned that you wanted something with a lot of room was important to you.
Yeah.
And you did mention that you wanted a minimum of a 6-passenger vehicle. And even if you could get it to 8, you'd prefer that. So could you expand on that? Like, beyond the obvious, why is room so important to you?
Honestly, Jim, we stuck all our 3 kids in a tiny little sedan. Not like the roomy sedan, like the basic base model sedan, right? So some of them have the extended wheelbase, they're a little bit longer or wider. Right. This was like the most compact sedan you could get. And it wasn't enjoyable to go on those road trips. Not that we go super frequently. When we do a couple times a year, I want the kids to be able to enjoy it. And they did enjoy it somewhat, but it was very cumbersome for my wife to pack. It was like a jigsaw puzzle. We had to pack everything perfectly to fit. And we fit long enough till we could find another vehicle that, fit in our range. And that's why I'm talking to you today. It was nice to move up to something that we could actually enjoy spending time together. And it didn't feel, honestly, my back would hurt. The seats are, I don't know what they call them, but they almost had no lumbar support in the back area. And it just got, quite honestly, pretty uncomfortable to drive for long periods of time. And so we waited, but we felt like this was the time to make the next step.
So far, we have 3. You mentioned very clearly safety was the first one. And then you mentioned finances was the second one. And then you're taking your trips and enjoying your trips. And of those 3, do you still rank them the same 1, 2, 3? Or which one's most important, would you say, to you?
Yeah, I would say safety, and maybe even room moved up to number 2.
I thought you might. The reason I say is I was watching, and you seemed to get a little bit more excited and emotional about the room than the budget. Than the budget. Yeah. You'd say number 1 is safety. That makes a lot of sense to me. Number 2 is the room in the vehicle. And number 3 then would be price.
Yeah, I think I could go up a little bit in the price if it gave us more room, because my kids are going to get older. And what if we have a 4th child? I don't know what's in the plans yet, but if we do, I want to have room in case our family continues to grow.
Okay, so your sales training is complete for the day. So what I want you to think about is, now I have this list, and it is actually 10. We're not going to go through the whole 10.
Sure.
But let's assume I have 3. Don't I have 3 ideas now?
Yeah.
To now know how to sell you a car? I need to double down on safety, room, and then price, budget type things. As a salesperson, my job is to figure out of all the cars we have on the property, which one is going to be the best one for you and your wife and your family. Yeah. And I've got 10, and we're not going to go through them all, but I've got these 10. So I do have the script for how to sell you a car. And now I'm going to pull the car down. I have a car. So I pull it down and say, based on everything you've told me, I think I have a car for you. So we're going to go to the car, and we're in the car, and I'm starting to point out to you why this car is so safe. Right. Why this car is so roomy. In other words, I can say it's roomy, or I can get in the back seat.
So you have done your research and know what vehicles are tough safety.
You have to know your product, right?
Yeah.
But think about it. I'm 6 feet tall, and so what I would do is I would get, let's assume we're leaning towards a van, which it sounds like we might be. The first thing I'm going to do when I get this vehicle pulled down is I'm going to talk about number 1 priority, safety, point out a few things, but then I'm going to get in that 3rd seat and say, let me show you something, Derek. I'm 6 feet tall. Look how much room I have back here. Come back here with me. And so now we're sitting in the back seat. Sounds weird, I know, but do this. How do you feel? How's this feel? It feels great. All right, let's go to the middle seat. How's that feel? Great. And now I'll get in the back seat, you get in the front seat. Let's see if you have enough leg room and I have enough leg room. Look at me. I got all kinds of stuff. So I'm proving to you, right, that my vehicle does have the right amount of room. It does have the right safety features. Oh, by the way, you might not be aware of this, but in the middle seat here, there's what are called side airbags. There's all kind of safety features in that middle seat, which is probably who's going to be in the middle seat?
Probably the baby, right? The smallest child.
Did you hear what I just said? So we got to identify that. And here's why this is safe. It's got an airbag here. And sometimes airbags aren't the best thing for young children. So it's the harnessing of that. So we show them how that works. And now we're proving to them that we have the right size, the right safety, and then we're going to obviously get to the budget. Yeah. Does that make sense? So the idea would be, And again, I want everybody to think about this. Selling is nothing more than a transfer of enthusiasm from me to the client. And if I know clearly what it is that the client wants, okay, then I can show them how my vehicle is going to do what they want it to do.
Yeah.
And so when I am an entrepreneur, which as a salesperson, I am my own individual entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So just think about that. So an entrepreneur's job is to find a hole and to fill that hole in the most efficient manner possible at the most reasonable price possible. And then we have the makings of a sell. Okay. So I find a need, I fulfill that need at a price, and hopefully the price in the customer's mind is reasonable, and we have a sell. So in order to do that, I have to have a whole lot of information to fulfill that mission. But that said, if I do this the right way, Derek is not going to have any feeling whatsoever. And I'm going to pause.
Yeah,
I'm going to pause for a second because I want you to try to guess what I'm going to say next. If I'm doing my job the right way, the client has no idea that he or she's being sold.
That's right.
They have no idea. They're just agreeing. Does this have enough room, Derek? Yeah. How do you feel about the safety back here? I feel pretty darn good about it. I like what you said about that. That's a neat thing. I didn't realize it had that. Yeah, that's great. So it's not a question of me selling the client. It's not. A good salesman, the client sells himself. Do you see the difference?
That's exactly why we're having this conversation.
So when you tell me that I'm not being salesy and that I'm being too salesy, my answer to you is, no, Derek, you're wrong. I'm not being salesy enough. And the fact is, when you say I'm being too salesy, it's because I'm not a real good salesman. So in order to be a good salesman, I need to find out what it is the client wants and then fulfill that desire in the best way that I can at the most reasonable price I can. And then the last portion of it, if I've done these things correctly, then I have the right to ask the client to buy my car. I have the right. I've earned that right. And does that mean they're going to buy every time I ask? Of course it doesn't. But I always look at things from a probability perspective. How can I give myself the best chance of selling this person a car today? By addressing their wants and needs. And once I do that and fulfill those wants and needs, then I ask them to buy. And if they don't buy, then because I've done such a great job, I'm going to get them back in at some time in the future, and I'm going to ask them to buy again. And if it doesn't work out that time, I'll get them in again. And I'm going to keep working that idea. I like to play a probability game. Probability states if I'm on an 8-story building and I go to the edge of the building and I jump, probability states I'm probably going to go down.
Yep.
I'm probably not going to go up. As a matter of fact, we know we're going down. So again, what is my best chance? It's not ever going to be 100%. But if I talk to 100 people and I give them my best shot every time, the probability states that I will sell between 30 and 50 cars. In other words, my closing percentage will be 30%, upwards to 50%. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, it's never going to be 100%. If you think it is, you're delusional. It's just not. What can I do as a salesperson to get that number within reason to the highest I possibly can? In order to do that, I've got to do the process that I've just laid out for you. I've got to do the process every single time. No exceptions, no veering from the process every single time. And I'm going to get my fair share. I'm not going to get them all. Your success in the automobile business will be measured by what you do with the ones you don't sell.
Wow.
How far did you go? How far did you push it? How many of the right questions did you answer? It's not about holding people's keys. It's not about tying them up. It's not about any of that bull crap. It's about value. Did I as much value as I could to this particular client? And did I do it with the next one and the next one? And I'm going to do it with 100 out of 100, and I'm going to get my 30, 40, 50%, whatever that number happens to be. I don't know. It varies from salesperson to salesperson. But I can tell you what, nobody sells them all. Nobody.
Yeah. And you're talking about it ends up a win for the customer.
Oh, sure.
It ends up a win for you as a salesperson.
Yep.
And it ends up a win for the dealership, right?
It's life-changing information.
Yeah.
If we just learn the art of selling, I said it, selling is an art.
Yes.
I never apologized for being a salesman. I was very proud of that. I was a really good salesman, and I understood it. I was very proud of myself that I did it very well. But I never sold everybody. My success was always measured by what I did with the ones that I didn't sell. That's the true measuring stick.
Wow.
how far do we push those ones? How much effort do we put into those ones? That's what I did.
Yeah.
Jim, that's a long answer.
Yeah.
To a short
Thank you for sharing that. I really wanted to get into that because I think people have the wrong perception of sales sometimes. And that's why I wanted to start that conversation. Not that I fully agreed with everything I said at the beginning, but wanted to prompt the conversation of what does it look like to rethink sales? Yeah. I think sometimes you and I,
we just did it.
We really got into the granular details of what does it look like to rethink sales. So Jim, thank you so much. I really enjoyed that short conversation. Guys, let us know in the comments below. You saw Jim go through the process. What did you learn? Let us know and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you so much.